The focus. The lead focus. Written by Robot.
Timmy and Bleep. Save Christmas. Timmy was having a terrible day. He had spilled his milk at breakfast, gotten a big stain on his new shirt, and lost his homework on the way to school. To top it all off, he got sent to the principal's office for talking in class. As he was sulking in the hallway, he heard a strange noise. It sounded like someone was crying. He followed the noise to the janitor's closet, and sure enough, there was Bleep, his robot friend, sobbing his little robot eyes out. "What's wrong, Bleep?" Timmy asked. "Oh, Timmy, I'm just so sad," Bleep said. "I was watching the news, and they said that Christmas might be cancelled this year because Santa's workshop is behind schedule. I love Christmas so much, and I don't want it to be cancelled." Timmy thought for a moment. He didn't want Christmas to be cancelled either. But what could he do? He was just a kid. "I know," he said. "We'll go help Santa. I bet he could use an extra hand or two." So Timmy and Bleep snuck out of school and caught the first flight to the North Pole. When they arrived, they found Santa's workshop in a total mess. Toys were half assembled, wrapping paper was everywhere, and the elves were running around like headless chickens. "Santa!" Timmy called out. "We're here to help." Santa was so relieved to see them. Timmy and Bleep worked tirelessly throughout the day, and by nightfall, everything was ready. The elves were even able to take a break to enjoy some of Timmy's homemade cookies. "Thank you so much, Timmy and Bleep," Santa said. "You've saved Christmas." "No, Santa," Timmy said. "You did. We just gave you a little help." The Ice Castle.
Once upon a time there was a little girl who dreamed of visiting a huge, magical ice castle. She had seen pictures of it in books and she longed to see it in person. One day, she set out on an epic adventure to find the ice castle. She walked for miles and miles, until she came to a frozen river. She carefully crossed the river, being careful not to slip on the ice. Finally, she arrived at the base of the ice castle. It was even more beautiful than she had imagined. She climbed the steps to the front door and knocked. A friendly Yeti answered the door and invited her in. She was amazed by the sights inside the castle. She saw ice sculptures of animals and huge chandeliers made of icicles. She even got to meet the Snow Queen herself. The little girl had the time of her life on her adventure. She was sad to leave the ice castle, but she knew she would always treasure the memories of her magical journey.
The Helpful Little Fox. It was the week before Christmas, and busy little foxes were everywhere. None were busier than the little fox who lived with his mama in the forest. Mama Fox was busy baking holiday cookies, and her little fox was busy helping her. He stirred the batter, licked the spoon, and helped Mama roll the dough into balls. Then he watched as she carefully placed them on the baking sheet. "Now, remember what I taught you," she said. "When the cookies are done, they will be very hot. So be careful not to touch them until they've cooled down." The little fox nodded, and then he helped Mama carry the tray of cookies into the living room. There, by the cozy fire, they placed them on the coffee table to cool. "There," said Mama. "Now, let's go wrap some presents." So the little fox and Mama Fox went into the other room, where they wrapped presents for all their friends. The little fox was excited for Christmas Day, when he would get to see all the happy faces of his friends as they opened their gifts. Later that night, as Mama and her little fox lay in bed, she said, "I am so glad you helped me bake those cookies today. I couldn't have done it without you." "I'm glad I could help, Mama," he said. "I love you." "I love you too, my little fox," she said. And with that they both fell asleep, dreaming of all the holiday fun to come.
The Christmas tree.
It was the week before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The little girl lay in her bed, wide awake and excited, thinking about all the fun she would have in the days to come. She could hardly wait for Santa to come down the chimney on Christmas Eve. But there was one thing that was bothering her. She couldn't decide what kind of Christmas tree to have. She had seen so many different kinds, and they all looked so beautiful. She didn't know how she would ever choose just one. But then she had an idea. She would go on a little adventure with her father to find the perfect tree. They would search high and low until they found the most beautiful tree in the whole world. So the next morning, they set out on their quest. They walked through the woods and looked at all the different trees. Some were too tall. Some were too short. Some were too skinny. And some were too fat. But none of them were quite right. Just when the little girl was about to give up, she saw the most perfect tree she had ever seen. It was just the right size. And it was so full and green. And it even had a few little pinnacones on it. The little girl was so excited, she could hardly contain herself. She knew that this was the tree she had been looking for. With a big smile on her face, she turned to her father and said, "This is the one. This is the most beautiful tree in the whole world." Her father was so proud of her. They took the tree home and decorated it with all their favorite things. And when Christmas Eve came, the little girl went to bed with a heart full of happiness and love. She knew that this was going to be the best Christmas ever.
The Brave Little Bunnies. Christmas Adventure. Thumper the bunny was very excited for Christmas. He had heard so much about Santa and all of the presents he gives to good little girls and boys. Thumper wanted to meet Santa more than anything. One cold winter night, Thumper hopped out of his warm bunny burrow and began his journey to the North Pole. He traveled 4 days, through the woods, and over snow-covered hills. He was cold and tired, but he kept going, until he finally arrived at the North Pole. There, he met Santa Claus and all of the elves. Santa was so happy to meet Thumper, and he gave him a big hug. Thumper was so excited to be there. Santa asked him what he wanted for Christmas, and Thumper said he just wanted to meet Santa. Santa was so touched by Thumper's bravery and kindness that he gave him a special present, a ride on his sleigh. Thumper was so excited to ride on the sleigh. It was the best Christmas ever.